Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome you all to the 14th seminar of International PhD in Progress Seminar Series, Phase 3, organized by GLOBALSOUTH Network, which started in January this year and will be up running until August 2024. It's my honor today to chair this session. My name is Dr. Jing Wang, Associate Professor at Leicester Law School, University of Leicester. I'm specialized in antitrust and competition law teaching and research. First of all, I would like to thank the organizer of this weekly seminar series, Dr. Norman Riart, lecturer in law at Leicester Law School and founder and convener of the GLOBALSOUTH Network. Now, please allow me to introduce our panel today. Our guest speaker is Yvonne Zhao, who is a PhD candidate at the School of History of Arts and Film at University of Leicester. Her research focuses on cultural disparities between Sinophone communities in mainland China and its neighboring regions. She holds her master's from the University of Westminster, where she started her research journey focusing on feminist films. Today, she will present the general idea of her ongoing doctoral research titled Against the Woman, Analyzing the Dissolution of Adolescent Narratives on Lesbian Images in Chinese Lesbian Cinema. The discussant for today's session is my colleague, Dr. Constantina Sampani, Associate Professor at Leicester Law School. Her current research focuses on interdisciplinary areas of the impact of culture in commercial and maritime alternative distribution resolution mechanisms, and its increasing use of technology in this process. Today's peer commentator is Jorge Gaxiola, JSD student at New York University. He completed an LLM in legal theory at NYU and a Bachelor of Arts in Law from Mexico. He previously worked as a law professor in Mexico City and also worked as a judicial assistant and law clerk at the National Supreme Court of Mexico. Thank you all for joining today's panel. Yvonne, you have 30 to 35 minutes for the presentation. And following your presentation, discussion and the peer commentators will have 3 to 5 minutes each for comments and questions, and we will also allow you to respond for that. After that, we will have 10 to 15 minutes of question and answer session by audience if we still have time by that time. Now, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much for your introduction. Okay, I will start with my presentation today, and at the very beginning, I will want to say thank you for everyone's listening. This is my first year in Leicester, and I do lots of the lesbian studies and research in this period. So today I want to analyze some of the narrative and for the standalone lesbian cinema. Okay, let me start it. I remember I met one of my gay friends when I started university, so my initial understanding for the sexual minorities did not come from the internet, but from the real-life social interactions. My university, which I have the bachelor degree, is Xi'an International Study University, was one of the most gender-imbalanced school in my hometown, with the statistic at the time showing the ratio as high as 1:30. So it's very common for us in that time to openly their own identity as gay or lesbian. However, despite the perceptions at the 2016, the UNDP surveys revealed that in our country, less than 5% of LGBTQ+ individuals are fully open about their sexual orientation at school, work, or with their religious communities, where about 15% are openly with their families. By the contrast, the Chinese government has maintained strict political culture and censorship over the gay community and LGBTQ-related content. And I doing a search on the website is showing that is illustrate the extent of the censorship and the control. As we can see, the first, the Chinese Communist Party, I will call it CCP, has continued to suppress LGBTQ organization online in recent years. The Great Firewall of China blocks over 311,000 domains and frequently takes down social media accounts and posts. The CCP is more likely to censor online content and criticize the party or risk mass mobilization, and recently they have sought to limit the expression on online communities. Governmental advisors highlight the vulnerable group pose a security threat as they might be used by the Western to infiltrate the China. It's very hard to understand, but this is true. On the 31 December 2015, the State Administration of the Press, Publication, Radio, Film, and Television, in the later I will call it as SARFT, of the People's Republic of China, announced a new rule that banned any television show and film displaying abnormal sexual relationships, including homosexuality. Online stream service follows the new rule by deleting or censoring web series with LGBTQ plus characters. And I will say that under the high pressure censorship environment, some things incident freak occur. In 2001, the Ministry of the Health officially removed the homosexuality from the list of mental illness. However, when Li Yinghe, a prominent Chinese sexologist, presented a proposal for the same-sex marriage to the China People's Public Consultative Conference since 2003, none of her proposals reached the General Assembly due to the lack of the signatures. Li Yinghe expressed in the 2008 that while the success seemed almost impossible this year, we must continue to raise the issue annually until it is passed. But as far as I know, this proposal didn't have passed till now. In the 2019, the popular gay club Destination in the city held a regular cross-dressing show. Additionally, despite censorship attempts, the biopic, the film Bohemian Rhapsody, depicting the Freddie Mercury's life, was screened in the street cinema, albeit with all the removal of all the gay content. In the 2020, the Shanghai Pride Festival. This is one of the most important gay rights festivals, founded in 2009, was forced to cancel all the activities. The announcement post on their website is read, Shanghai Pride requests to announce that we are canceling all the upcoming activities. So this is the truth in our country. And to talk about the films, I saw I saw one list of the Chinese lesbian films whose introduction says the People Public of China does not recognize same-sex marriage or civil unions. The list of films cover almost all the PRC's lesbian-themed films, some that do not appear on the list because it's screening out for the censorship, and such films are generally not showing the public. There are only 18 of them, and there are hardly any way or resources to watch them on the internet. They can't be the theoretical films as expect for the 2009 spy films named The Message, the Chinese name is Fengshen, in which the lesbian content is pieced together only by spontaneous association by viewers. But even so, the fact that the both actors are heterosexual is vital in the films. The film is associated with the lesbian film only because the film explicit the action scenes of the two women comforting and get along with each other during their detonation reflect a lesbian ethos, as well as the less pajamas, the chingensum, the qipao is very traditional clothes. They while in the narrow space in the ambiguous performance has also associated audience imagination for the lesbian content. In addition to this list, there is a historical film called Snowflower and The Secret Fan, director Wang in the 2011, which tells the story of a lifelong friendship between the two girls who developed their own secret code is named Nushu to counter the patriarchy system. But please pay attention to my word choice. I use the word as a friendship. Because in the mainland China, all the lesbian content, the relationship is called as the friendship, and they do not have the other relationship in the content. In the contrary to the limited number of the lesbian film in the PSA, China has a very large queer population. According to a 2015 white paper by Blood, this is the Chinese largest gay dating platform. There are nearly 69 million homosexuals in our country, accounting for about 5% of the population. But as I mentioned before, queer-themed films, dramas, television shows, or some of the web shows are usually banned by SARFT or cut off of the media of the complaints with self-censorship. This also lead me to do research, often encountering invisible resistance. For example, there are no channels or resources to watch such films. I was in a lesbian film fan group, and I saw a discussion about films that no one had seen. But the news about these films would always be communicated among the fans. The film is named 除却巫山. The English name is The Cloud. You can search it in the MDB, but you can't find the resources and any news about that films. The reason for the high level of discussion is that the film was completely banned because one of actor become a government official. So therefore, I will be divided the PRC lesbian film into the underground films and the imagined lesbian films. Yes, and being the queer as a very vulnerable group often involves the challenging of the domain heterosexual hegemony and the constantly boundary gender norms. This resistance resonate with the instance of Xenophon study and leading to the Xenophon study in conclusion in my research. Additionally, the concept of the Chineseness intersect with the notion of the queer xenophonicity. And I will quote some of the references here. In the 2009, the Fogel Joshua A. coined the term xenophone to characterize the East Asia would pair to the arrival of the European and American gunboats. After that, the Shi Shumei considered the xenophone studies to be an examination of the lectural statute within a given time and place, namely with the margin of the geopolitical nation-states and their hegemonic production. Therefore, researchers are encouraged by Shi Shumei to concentrate on the cultural wellness among the Chinese-speaking community at the margin of the China, such as Taiwan and Hong Kong, as opposed to the PRC, and to avoid homogenizing this diverse culture identity with the xenocentric projects. Additionally, Chris Barry, reiterating the idea of the Chinese language cinema in his paper, What is the Transnational Cinema Thinking from the Chinese Situation? And a decade later, he reconsidered how these films and the media reflect constraint and challenge culture identity and the political narrative within and across this region from the global perspective. His research might devolve into how the film from Taiwan, Hong Kong, and other Chinese-speaking areas represent local identity, and how the representation interact with the concept of the broader Chinese identity. And so it's lead to my methodologies. My research method is to analyze the textual content through the visual symbols. I try to investigate the symbolic language of the identity expression, social definition, and the self-identification in the Sinophone lesbian films. At the same time, my research team pays special attention to the cultural difference between the Chinese communities in the China neighboring region. As I mentioned, is Taiwan and Hong Kong, and those within the PRC. My goal is to avoid flattening those different cultural identity with a xenocentric bias. So I try to put my interest on the Hong Kong and Taiwan. You know, the Taiwan at the first place in the Asia to recognize the gay marriage law. I used thought the Taiwan lesbian film would be good in the term of the genre and analysis. But at the moment, there are plenty of them, and the controversy is much better. As for the Hong Kong in a region, was post-colonial series has given me the content example. Their lesbian film has given me more to think about and wonder about. And since Dagan proposed the concept of the homonormativity, the concept has gained increased importance in the theory of the homosexuality. Homosexual culture assimilates into the mainstream, the conform to the heterosexual narrative ideal. Dagan believes the trend stems from a shift in the gay politic indeed, the depoliticization of the LGBTQ plus culture towards the family equality, which she believes is restrictive and destructive. In the film, I'm going to analyze there is a unique from the homonormativity and the adolescent narrative, but this assimilation somehow devotes the images and the representation of lesbian. The lesbian film, and I mean is the lesbian film has gone to another kind of dialogue. It's anti-lesbian narrative. So the film I want to discuss is a Hong Kong lesbian film. It's named Butterfly, which is the second film of the young Hong Kong director Mark Yan. The story begins when Yip and the deer meet, and Yip as an intruder becomes a key of the deer's adolescent memories, as well as the Mandarin-speaking Chinese in the film. It bears the mark of the specific history event, which, like the deer's butterfly-shaped birthmark, is indelibly. At the outset of the films, Deer characterized her former lesbian lover Jing. In Burr's monastic life at the year of 23, she selects the term as the best friends. This is a curious choice of words that understand the complexity of their past. Michel Foucault in the Archaeology of Knowledge poses that the statement is atoms of the discourse, indicating that the statements of function is influenced by various factors. Being a sound, a sign, or the imprint on the memory of space, this theoretical lines offer insight into the dear portrait of her relationship with Jing. The director used the flashback to allude to the conclusion their romance merging in present and past. This narrative technique emphasizes the spiritual and temporal rift between the actors, thereby precluding the extension of their useful connection. Yes, yet there is a subtle emotion undercurrent. Deer's attempt to recapture the bygone dream through her recollection as a poignant target for the unfulfilled promise of their adolescence. So in the films, we can see the sense of reality are cold town, but in the past, there was a warm town with the soft focus lenses. It means very romantic and beautiful. The sun and the school uniform, the girl lying on the lawn, the pure white socks. These elements are the most common signs of the adolescent films in Asia, but also means that Jing has not grown up. Her youth was always preserved by the films. Plus, when the romantic music plays, The film began to retrace the girl time between Dear and Jing, and the director naturally romanticized the lesbian lovemaking sessions, which is kind of like the sexual pleasure. This release of love of adolescence is a yearning of the unknown. This is against the patriarchy at its heart. Therefore, they need a sacred room in which to perform their rite of passages. There are novelties and spectacular in their initiation ceremonies. In other words, their growth is not seen. In 1967, Michel Foucault coined the term heterophobia to define an independent place in society. Heterophobia has a different function and properties. They may welcome imagination and represent space of freedom or isolation. And they reveal another way of living together and seeing the world. Thus, the sacred room is Dear and Jing's heterophobia about their lesbian identity being determined. In this deprivation of the such heterophobia, and it gives the adolescent story its full narrative. When the father in the story is temporarily absent in the film narratives, then the mother is deprivation of freedom. The mother becomes the other. Then the father can only be the big other. That is, the existence of the other change the direction of the story. In the middle of the film, the storyline left behind the lesbian narrative break free. It is the 1989, the Tiananmen Square protest and massacre. I believe you both know this memorable things. It's what the story really wanted to say. And after the formal introduction of the drone force incident is another called about the Tiananmen Square protest and massacre. In the films, the next shot is of the deer having sex with her husband in the present moment. It's so ironic. This is a metaphor for the failure of the moment at the end of their adolescence as a lesbian. Its uncontrolled hormones correspond to the feeling of the powerlessness in the adulthood. It seems that the adult dear can help her, the gay student, but the truth is she can't help herself. However, my question is, why there always be a big other present in their love story, which it seems to have the part of narrative of the Chinese homosexual films? After a series of the painful struggle, Dear is back to a new secret home with Yip, her new lover, and Yip is her last resort. And there is no denying the fact that the relationship is compensation for the feeling and perceived Dear. Each time the director looks at Yip from the Dear's point of view, the director chooses a Super 8 footage vision. It's kind of like the very romantic camera shot. There is a blur of the present and the past. But as Dear tries to interact more intimately with Yip in the cold town place, with a baby crying, the baby is Dear's doctor is very cliche in the narratives. The film completes the detour from aesthetic ambience. Although Yip's confession to the Dear in the later emphasizes that she works on the hope and is more patient, but she is kind of like the ghost. From her the ghostly appearance at the beginning of the films to her chaotic life story as she describes herself, which is emphasized her existence is more as a sustainous, amazable lesbian utopia. Near end of the film, Dear's father appears finally, but he just like an anonymous figure who cheat on her mother. The character's role is more to explain why Dear's mother tried to commit suicide when the Dear was young, and why she violently separated Dear from the Jing. The trust is broken, and the weakness becomes an extreme personality. But they do have the question is whether the vulnerability of the women is the reason why their lesbian images has been removed. There is no further explanation in the films, and the director attempts to use political events to obscure the provide space for the interpretation of the nature of their relationship. In the present timeline, when the aftershock of the Jing Falls incident continued in the past, this relationship with her husband was at an all-time low. When they come out to her husband, she said, "I'm a lesbian, and I never changed." Apparently, the furious process of the next husband can also be accomplished in an instant, followed by a long period of extraordinary calm, like the relationship between the women and the patriarchy, warped but easily reconciled. But this fire, herself, reproach, shame, and pain are embodied in a long press of entanglement with patriarchy. And so in the past timeline, when all the contradictions come together and exploded, Jing was abandoned by her girlfriend. The failure of the student activism led to doubt about the concept of the state and her belief. The destruction of her ideals, Jing had only one end: convert to Buddhism. In the end, Deer and Jing finally meet. Deer knows the reason of the Jing become the monk was despair after her leaving, and Jing believes the reality and the ideal of the gap generally return to fate. So a prophecy, it is also fate that the imagine of the homosexuality is dissolved during their adolescence. The film is explicit about the punishment of the being lesbian, losing her doctor custody, and isolating the family with tears, and even returning to a reveal like the ending. There began her wandering with the yelp, resuming her adolescent at the year of the 30. But as the shape of the Theseus powders, is this an emotion of the period's adolescence? I bet it's not. So come to my conclusion. When I began to explore the Chinese language LGBTQ films with the lesbian themes, I always found the sense of the sadness in their narratives, especially when it comes to the events and occur during the lesbian adolescence. However, is this the melancholic style of work really an affirmation for the lesbian community? In fact, this is the self-deprecating exclamation and even a punishment for the agency of the lesbian identity. Finally, the fate of actors in the films is constantly dominated by the large event, such as the student activism and major historical turning points. Therefore, their images as a lesbian is insignificant in the face to their big others, as if the homosexuality is only described as a heterophobia by Foucault. In the political changes, even those who are not witnesses and sufferers will naturally produce a depression and tracing of suffering, and they share a context. Whether in the PRC, Hong Kong, or Taiwan, the life events of lesbian are generally altered by some ground narrative, and they can only complete the correction and exchange their gender identity in the private space. This is undoubtedly a sad and monotronic process, which is also an ironic coincidence between the movie and the real world. Lesbian films ultimately become anti-lesbian. And for my real conclusion, as a result, my current argument is that existing narrative of adolescent in a centerfold lesbian film are still confined with a binary gender structure, in which women in such films are either still manipulated in the bodies or emotions that are repeatedly watched or buried underground historical narrative without delving into the core issue of the gender politicals. I would argue that this lesbian films has the characteristics of being anti-female, and that the mechanism of representation is not from the female perspective and for the film subject. The subject is, I call it, the butler concept. In other words, lesbian cinema in the cinemaphile is largely an ironic and floating signifier of definition ruptures. A queer cinema aimed to establish a gender egalitarian awareness, but it ends up creating a stereotypical structure against women. And this is all my presentation, and this is my reference. So thank you everyone's time. I'm finished. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. That's really fascinating. So shall we now invite Christina for comments, please?
Yes, thank you very much. And many thanks for this very interesting presentation. And yeah, the visual aids also were particularly impressive. So thank you very much, Yvonne. It was really lovely to attend your presentation today. So my first question perhaps would be, what potential challenges do you envisage in terms of your methodology in light of the current regulatory framework you discussed in China, but also perhaps cultural reservations about how lesbian women are depicted in the cinema? What potential challenges, therefore, do you envisage in collecting your data, and how are you planning to address them?
Yes, okay. So I think this my most challenges about my methodology is about resources. As I mentioned before, there are very usually occasions I couldn't find resources on the channel to watch the films. I just know the film exists, but I couldn't watch it because it's be banned or be self-censorships and cut off from the Steam the platform. So maybe I lack of the resources. And the second problem is about the Sinophone. You mean the Sinophone is very huge. It's a huge series. It's including the Chinese in American, in British, or the Malaysia Chinese, Singapore Chinese, and including the Hong Kong and Taiwan. So right now I analyze 3 regions: the PRC, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. But it means I need to ignore the Malaysia and Singapore, the other Chinese lesbians things. So I'm still struggling about that. I don't know. Could I should to look all the whole the world the Sinophone film lesbian film, or I just focus on the 3 regions? So I guess it's my second challenge. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. If you were to think of who you would like to convey your research message to outside the academic audience, who would this be, you think? Who are the people that you would like to hear your message, and what use could they make of it? Could they make of that message?
You mean the scholar?
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, anybody outside the academia. So who would you like to be your participants in the discussion and the end users of your research outside the academia? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The 3 people and come in my brain. The first one is Shushu, because the theory, the term of the Sinophone is created by the Shushu, and but she more focused on the Chinese in America, and the white in the Chinese in the Western, how they use the Chinese, and she want to against the patriarchy and the CRP. And another guy is Chris Barry, who is a professor in the LES maybe KCL, no, yeah, he is a professor in the KCL, and he got lots of the research on the Chinese films. Not only the lesbian or the gay films, is all about some of the drama films and the melodrama, I mean, and the historical films. And another guy is Bao Hongwei. He's a Hong Kongese, and he focuses on the cure in Hong Kong and mainland China. Maybe the 3 person is my is my focus on. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you have 2 more minutes, or I don't want to monopolize the questions and the discussion? Could I have 2?
Yeah, you do, of course.
Excellent, thank you. So I suppose that you have done the first layer, at least, of your literature review, coming to the end of the first year of your PhD study. So past that stage, I was wondering, where would you identify the novelty of your research? What is that has not already been explored, or which angle of your research is different to what the literature review on this topic or on a similar topic has already covered?
Wow. Yeah, you got the point. It's my problems right now. Maybe for my literature review, first of all, I focus on the xenophone study, of course, and another, I want to focus on the queer theory. In my proposal, my research proposal, I reference about the Butler theories. For the queer theory, the Butler is important, and you couldn't ignore it. But the Butler, for me, is so hard. The book is so very hard to understand. So I use some of the Bao Hongwei series. It's kind of like the report and the research for the situation about the being lesbian or gay in China. And after that, I want to use the feminism series in my literature review. Maybe those is 3 parts of my literature review.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a very final one indeed. It was very interesting that you mentioned cultural nuances within the Sinophone world. And it made me think whether you would consider the Chinese diaspora as this may be another layer of cultural perception of what you are presenting in your topic. And excuse my ignorance if I'm wrong in asking that, but I was wondering why Singapore, for instance, was not included also in the countries you are discussing in your thesis.
It's very great questions about why not Singapore. At the first, I watched some of the Sinophone lesbian films. It's totally different about the Chinese films or Hong Kong films. In my opinion, the Sinophone lesbian film is kind of like the Western lesbian film. It's more free, and the genre is different. It's not focused on how the women against the patriarchy, how the history event influence their dissolve to be a lesbian figure. The Sinophone films, lesbian film is about to. I'm happy to be a gay, to a lesbian, and I feel the power if I against. So it's a different narrative. This is my first reason not use a Sinophone and not use a Singapore. The second reason is about the Singapore is very, for the political ways, is very complexity, because the post-colonial things in the Singapore is need to focus on. But for me, the post-colonial is not my subject, it's not my interest in, so I give it up. Yeah. Could I explain that?
Certainly. Thank you so much. Many thanks.
Many thanks, Christina. So can we move on to our peer commentators, please? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, Yvonne. I find the research so interesting. I think it's, I mean, what you're analyzing, I think it's very important. So I would just like to make a very short suggestion and then ask something about the scope of your research. So the suggestion I already mentioned very briefly when the call started, but I think it would be very useful for your readers, but also to make your argument even stronger. To make it's not only rhetorically, but also rhetorically stronger. To make some comparisons. So it could be very interesting for you to contrast some of these movies that you are analyzing. And you're saying they actually try to subvert stereotypes in relation to homosexuality and gender identity, and fail to do so with other movies that actually achieve this task. And I think this contrast could be very useful for some of your readers, and could make your argument even stronger. So this is my suggestion. I know it's not easy because it's not easy to find movies that do this well, but I think that it could be very useful. And the question I wanted to ask is, and it has to do with the scope of your research. So you're already, I know it's difficult to find the movies and watch them, but I imagine you have so many different movies you can watch. Like, it's going to be your research good. You need to narrow the scope of your research. If not, you will end up watching everything. But another thing that I found interesting is that although you present the research as an analysis of lesbian relationships and stereotypes in relation to lesbianhood, particularly, you talk a lot and analyze a lot gender norms, gender and identity, gender expression. And the discussion, even though you do mention it, doesn't center that much in sexual orientation as such. So I wanted to ask if you are actually trying to focus on sexual orientation, or if you are actually using lesbian relationships to analyze gender identity and gender norms independently of sexual orientation, or if you're interested in both at the same time. And in any case, why is it, if you're, for example, interested in gender identities particularly, why is it that through analyzing how these lesbian relationships are portrayed, we will have a better grasp of stereotypes in relation to gender identity than analyzing simply how women are portrayed in these movies, regardless of their sexual orientation. So this is more or less what I want to. So to sum up just very quickly, so this distinction between sexual orientation, gender identity, gender expression. So I think it would be useful for you to state very clearly which of these aspects you're interested in and what relationships you see between them.
Oh, yes. Okay. Thank you about your questions. And for me, when I prepare my research proposal, I just have one conclusion. Yes, for me, the conclusion is come out at first. My conclusion right now is I think the standalone lesbian cinema is actually against the lesbian. It means it's dissolve the lesbian figure, the orientation and the identity and the representation. So for me, when I bring the conclusion to select the films, I mean the criteria about the films, first of all is about adolescent lesbian films, and another in the future, I mean the next month I will to figure out about the underground lesbian films in the PSA, and the third genre is about the drama films. You know, it's very traditional Chinese drama films, but all the different type of the films both to give me one conclusion is about the PRC, Hong Kong, and Taiwan do not have the real lesbian cinemas. Cause the films is the process of the narratives is kind of like to dissolve the identity and the orientation about the lesbian, about being a lesbian. Cause the all about the films is to tell the audiences, if you be a lesbian, you will have a punishment. So in the films, I mean the director in their subconscious is about the being lesbian is not a good thing. It's a good thing being a normal people who has a normal sexuality. So it's about my conclusion, and it's influenced me to how to select the films and to analyze. Yeah. I hope I can answer that.
Thank you so much for both commentators and the discussions, and thank you, Yvonne, for your answers. So now we are going to invite questions from the audience.
Yeah.
If you have any questions, would you please just raise your hands or turn on your camera, just ask directly. Or if you prefer to type in the chat function, please just use the chat function and I will read that out. Okay, while we're waiting for the questions, may I just ask a few follow-on questions? Yes. I'm not taking everybody's time. I'm just waiting for questions to come in, okay? So I think I'm just following on about your language limitations, which you already mentioned and Christina already mentioned. So even in Hong Kong and Taiwan, there are big group of using different two types of Chinese synonyms. Yes. So I'm just thinking, do you have access to that, or in your research you kind of ignore that?
Definitely I couldn't ignore that, because you know the Cantonese and the
Hakka.
Yeah, it's quite different. Yeah. So maybe one of my chapter in my dissertation, I will focus on the different language use. Mm-hmm. In the China, we do have the different language types. Yeah. So maybe I will discuss it in the future.
Yeah, because I'm thinking their movies, because they're actually using Cantonese and Hakka for quite a lot, and their movie probably being produced in those language as well.
Yes.
So maybe that's something to be included or just mentioned as a limitation. And I guess the other thing is, you mentioned about Taiwan. Mm-hmm. And do you think it's necessary for you to visit Taiwan to do to make sure your research actually being conducted properly?
Probably, yeah. I'm applying the visa to the Taiwan right now. Mm-hmm. So I think it's very necessary. I need to make the connection with Taiwan directors to talk about why they do the lesbian films in that way. You know, the Taiwan allows all the lesbian or queer themed films to screening out to the public. But the Taiwan lesbian film is kind of like the commercial films. It's not means to show the political belief or show the identity, self-identity. It's show the narrative, the drama, the melodrama. So I want to talk about them if I have any chance, because I think a field trip is very necessary for my research.
Yeah, I agree. And also I'm just thinking, because it's very interesting, you actually have the same conclusion at this stage already for the mainland, Hong Kong and Taiwan, even though they are at very different stages legally. So in Taiwan, this is actually the same sexual marriage is actually legal.
Yeah.
And I'm quite surprised about this conclusion, and I really would like to know why, as a reader, why Taiwan also produce movies in the same way.
Yeah, you are not the first one to have these questions. Also, my supervisor asked me why you think about that? Because I think somehow the Taiwan, Hong Kong, and mainland China share the very common conscious is about influenced by the Confucianism. You know that? Yeah, so in the Taiwan films, the people, it seems like apparently the lesbian or the gay has a legal to have the same-sex marriage. But in their deep heart, in their conscious, subconscious, they do think the the relationship with the cure is kind of like the the boundary gender. It means in the Taiwan, even you are the gay couple or lesbian couple, but one of them to represent for the female figure, and another one is a male figure. So I think that if in the relationship with the cure, if someone has to present as a gay, as a male, and another one present as a female, it not means it's a lesbian or the gay. So it's very simple.
And thank you. And then my another really just for my curiosity. Sorry about this.
It's okay. It's okay.
So
I'm very glad you're asking. Yeah.
You focus on female movies.
Yes.
But how about gays?
How about gays?
Yeah. How about? I'm just thinking because you said those lesbian movies actually are anti-lesbian. But how about those gay movies? Do you think you can draw the same conclusion?
No, because I do have lots of gay friends I mentioned, but I think the gay content is very different with lesbian. I choose a lesbian because I'm a female. I can understand that. Even though I'm not sure my sexuality, maybe I'm the bi, maybe I'm straight, but I know the female. I know the feeling about being the female. And it's very hard the female to say I'm the gay, I'm a lesbian, because one of them need to present they are the male. They need to take care of her girlfriend, even though they are still a female. So maybe the lesbian is my concentrate on.
Yeah,
but for the gay, I guess another way to analyze that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you actually mentioned quite different mentalities here between East and West, and also between different genders. So perhaps it would be some idea for you to include into your introduction to really define your research, to mention why you actually only focus on this.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, I should do. Yeah.
Should we invite? If there are any final questions from the audience, sorry, I'm taking all the time.
It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
I think.
No.
I have one small comment. And I think one small question. Yvonne, you talked about narratives, and I wonder if you doing the methodology, because when it comes to narratives, the studies focusing on narratives, because part of my research was on the generation of narratives within the judgments, and on that occasion I did experience how to extract narratives from the documents and all of the sources. And there, when I was reviewing the literature, I remember the narratives are actually, the problem with the narratives are they exist in different forms. They exist in pictures, songs, movies, poetry, slogans, billboards. And you chose these movies only, which is fine. And I think which is absolutely fine, as long as you can justify that. Why do you want to focus on this source of narrative and not other sources of narratives, like speeches by some activists who are working for these things, maybe Chinese diaspora? Because the way I understand is, in these kind of countries, the space for freedom of expression is very limited. So most of the time, the diaspora, they express themselves in other countries, and then those slogans and all that becomes sources of narrative. I mean, as long as you have the reason to justify that, why did you exclude those sources of narratives and why you are focused on this narrative, that's absolutely fine. But I just wanted to, draw your attention towards this point.
Yeah.
And the second thing about the our discussant to mention novelty of your research, I think there's a kind of underselling in your research. What should I say? Presentation. Because the topic apparently looks very important. It's contributing to adding substantively to the literature on this topic in the Global South. Because to be honest, the space for this kind of research is very limited. On the other side, there is literature, but from an international perspectives, which is actually not capturing the complete picture. So you being a person from that space, focusing on that space, is a great contribution to that stream of knowledge. And I think this is what you need to emphasize, because usually this kind of thing on these jurisdictions are not available. The only thing which you need to highlight and understand is that what exactly the Sinophone jurisdictions, these case studies, are actually contributing to our understanding of censorship and the on same-sex interactions. That is that. I mean, these are my only two comments.
Yes. So very thanks for your comments, and it still inspire me. So to talk about the narratives, I have to say is one of my methodologies about the textual analysis. So to talk about the textual, it's very easy to think about the narratives in the films. And also I mentioned I want to use some of the symbolic languages to analyze the narratives, I mean the dialogue, why the characters say that way, what the dialogue means, and about the feel the camera shot and the tone. I mean what mean about the cold tone or warm tone, what mean about the camera lines, angle, and some sounds. Even the music is much it's kind of like my focus on, because I want to show my analysis for the film narrative to have some of the conclusions, how the director's thinking. I mean how the film creators thinking, and how they communicate, how they use the items to communicate with the audiences. What they really want to say is my focus. Yeah, it's my concentration on.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think the time is up. So thanks again for all the panelists, and thank you all for coming today. And we're looking for you to join us next week for the GSN PhD seminar. Next week will be presented by Jemari Kaduolu and Contipe. Sorry, my pronunciation is really terrible. I'm tried. So he's a PhD candidate at Leicester Law School, and his presentation will be about due process in blockchain dispute resolution. So thank you so much again, Yvonne, and thanks for everyone for coming. See you.
Thank you.